What's good, YouTube? Cardfight King here, Aqua Life baby. You already know how it is. So I wanted to bring you guys my Dark Irregulars deck profile. Yes, I do have another deck other than Aqua Force. Today was actually the sneak peek for the Raging Tactics set, so I am almost done. I'm about 80% done with my Spike Brother deck. I'm missing just 2 Bull Spike, 1 Bad End Dragger, and 1 Power Back Ronaldo. It should have been Leonard, but whatever. So just a few cards missing from that, but most of the deck is complete. So hopefully by next weekend I'll be able to get you guys a completed Spike Brothers deck, and then that would round out my Protect, Force, and obviously Excel decks that I have on my current roster. Now, I love this Dark Irregular deck. The deck just feels so much more smooth than it has been in, with the first two sets that released for it. This deck doesn't focus on a lot of randomly soul charging. It focuses on specific soul charging to set up your win condition, which is either pressuring with Brufas, or setting up various hard legs so that you could put a guard tax on your opponent and force them to drop 3 cards. Obviously, No Life King to end the game after you use a various hard leg. No Life King can still end the game even without him, but hard leg just that can more or less secure victory for you. Your opponent would have to have at least 9 cards in hand for 3 attacks on 5, 12 cards in hand for for 4 attacks, one coming with the NLK turn. So the deck is actually very smooth. It's very good. There are times, you do have to think with this deck. It's not a deck you can just pick up and go into a tournament and top with. There's a lot of, different effects involved. You got to be smart with your counter charging. Having units bound, losing certain units during the game can definitely hurt. G-assisting hurts this deck a lot. But, in that instance, you do have to kind of switch up your strategy and go for what you can go for and what the deck is ultimately going to give you, really. So it's really working with what the deck is going to give you. But I'm going to get into the deck profile and explain why as we go along. Alright guys, so to start out, obviously the starter, just draw a starter. So we're running 8 crit, or 4 heal, 4 draw, and 8 crit. Very standard lineup, nothing to really much say about it. Very standard. I know some people have run more draws in the past, but this deck doesn't need a draw. Like I said, you're not trying to power through your deck. You want for your deck, you just want to set up your soul to where you don't really need to soul charge anymore, and then start utilizing your abilities and sustain and pressure. 4 Dimension Creeper. I know some people run Alluring Succubus in this slot. I'm not a fan of Alluring Succubus because she uses a counter blast. Yes, she does go into soul, but it's not guaranteed that you'll get what you need off the top of your deck as far as the grade 3s. Now, I have seen her work to a degree, but it's more of a random chance. So it's either or. But my thing is that what I value from him is the fact that when you toss him back into the deck, you do not have to soul charge to 3. You can counter charge and put him back to the bottom just to increase your deck count, like something for that late game if you're struggling. Additionally, the soul charge 3 is nice. You can kind of hope to randomly soul charge into specific units you need, so then you can start selectively soul charging and grabbing things from the deck, with Brufas and Emblem Master. But one of the more important things is that if you have a grade 3 in your soul, he's a 13k booster. That booster with Emblem Master, when you have 7 soul, is a 27k column. You're putting a 9k in front of him makes it a 22k column. This guy is here to really make numbers for a deck that I feel like could use the help in terms of numbers, without Protect 2 as well. So I think Dimension Creeper is definitely fantastic. This is your ride target, Yellow Bolt. Yellow Bolt's a fantastic card. Obviously, he's the card you really just want to ride. When you ride on top of him,
you get to soul charge 2, and if you soul charge the trigger, you get to draw a card. His other ability is that if he attacks and you're a Vanguard and your opponent's at grade 2 or greater, you get to soul charge 1 and he gets an extra 5k. The soul charge 1 can come in handy. Especially if you have to ride NLK first, and at that point you're sitting here like trying to fish for Brufas, trying to fish for something, but you want to focus on then just setting up NLK to go in, because it's what the deck's giving you. There's been times where it's like, I can't find Brufas, I have to play to NLK, and I had to ride NLK first, and that does kind of slow down what we want to do with the deck at times. However, Yellow Bolt can speed up the process so that we would be able to use NLK, and if we're able to soul charge a Brufas or another NLK, then we could go in and then start sustaining going into our later turns. So he's just a fantastic rearguard. And then probably I want to say the most important grade rearguard in the deck, probably her second to Emblem Master, is Variance Killer Tail. She is unbelievably important to this deck. What she is a 6k grade 1 who, when you can rest her, you can take a card from your drop zone or your damage and put it into your soul. If you took a card from your damage, then you get to put you have to take the top card of your deck and put it into your damage face down. If you have 3 copies of her in the soul, you get to countercharge 1 and then restand her. So her countercharge restand only happens if you use her ability to put a card from damage zone to soul. It does not activate if you take a card from the drop zone to put it into the soul. But she's very important because she is literally your setup card. The thing with Dark Irregulars in this deck is damaging can hurt. Damaging can hurt in the sense that you're not going to be able to, you damage the Brufas, you damage the Emblem Master. You're not able to get them into the soul, so you can use Brufas or other abilities to search them out. And you're trying to set up for your killer, for your, your end game, your win condition, which is Variance Hard Leg. And this card is literally almost, free setup for Variance Hard Leg. So, this card is extremely important to see. You really want to see her early. She's not as useful late game unless you're going for a really late hard leg. But early to mid game, she's probably one of the most valuable cards. So finding her early and often is key. And she actually is another card I would not mind riding, because I can use Brufas to search out other copies of her and put her into the soul. So that's it for the grade 1s. Now going into the grade 2s. Now I'm running the Icicle Girl, or Icicle Resistant. I like her. I prefer the promo card Rodeo, who's a 5k grade 2 who gains 1,000 for each card in your soul. But I do like her and what she's able to bring. You can intercept with her, and then when she intercepts, she goes into the soul, and you can bind her from your soul to give a unit on your board 10,000 power. That can come in handy really late game. It makes your hard leg turns that much more powerful. I've used her in instances where I bind her, so instead of my opponent, when I use hard leg, so I'll pump up a hard leg column from 17 to 27. So against a force deck, or or protect 2, or someone that has double intercepts, that forces them to now actually have to guard from hand instead of being able to use their intercepts on board. So she's great in that regard. She's also great for just making pushes. I just really do enjoy this card, and you can use hard leg skill, call it out, get the guard tax online, and then soul blast all the copies of her out of your soul to beef up your board. When you're going for the throat, going for game. So I've been learning to really like her. She definitely is a card that I do like to ride as well, so I can get the copies of her in the soul, so we can keep that rolling too. Then we have our. Actually, I'll put this next setup card, Emblem Master.
Emblem Master is actually a fantastic card. When you call him, you can counterblast one. You pick a card on your board, whether it's himself or another card. You search 3 copies out from your deck or your drop zone, and up to 3 copies of it, and put it into your soul. You can do a lot of different setup plays with him and like NLK and whatnot, or him and Brufas. There's a lot of different setup plays you can do with him, but he is literally the card that gets you your 3 copies in soul for hard leg. He also has the added bonus, and he's actually very good with Protect too, is that if you have 7 or more cards in the soul, he gains 5k power and an extra 5k shield. So he's a 14. So he'll be a permanent on a rear guard circle. He'll be a permanent 14k card with while being a 10k intercept. Very good on Protect too. He's just an outstanding. He's really just an outstanding card, and you can just and you can keep calling call him from hand guard. So he's a 10k shield in hand. He adds a lot of protection to the deck, but he also adds offense to easily our best rear guard in terms of providing offense and defense. And then you have 4 copies of Variance Hard Leg. This card is the win condition of the deck. Dark Irregulars would not be such a decent deck. They wouldn't really be good, I feel, or they wouldn't have a lot of kill power if this card was never created. This card literally gives Dark Irregulars a true win condition by what he says is if you have 3 copies of 3 cards in your soul, of 3 different cards in your soul, your opponent has to choose. If your opponent guards from hand, they have to guard with at least 3 cards. Meaning that you have to have, let's say so basically your soul has to look like triple hard leg, triple Emblem Master, and triple of her. And once you have 3 copies of 3 different cards, I hope I'm making sense with that. Basically, you have to have 3, 3, and 3 of the same card in your soul, and you get that ability. Again, it sets this card is perfect on the NLK turn. He's perfect when you're trying to pressure. Being able to draw into multiple copies of him, have him set up multiple turns of pressure. You can easily take somebody from 2 to 6, from 3 to 6, or you can just eat through their hand. I remember playing against Pale Moon with this deck, using hard leg and whatnot, and just ripping through their hand, eating 9 to 10 cards from their hand at a time. With the NLK turn, if your opponent's on 5 damage, they have to block everything. Using him, you rip out anywhere from 12 to 15 cards from the hand, depending on how much they need to guard for during that turn. It's just fantastic for what this card does for Dark Irregulars. But again, he does require setup. So this whole deck revolves around being able to set up 3 cards in soul. Now there is another setup that you do want to go for in the deck, and we're going to get to that right now. But first, so Variance drag form. First with the grade 3. So the grade 3s, I know he's just the one of in the deck, since everything is in multiples of 4, because we want to have the most accuracy in being able to get off Variance hard leg skill. So Variance drag form is a decent card. What he does is when you call him to the rear guard or ride him, you counterblast 1, tuck a card from your damage into your soul, and then you can damage another card, and you grab a grade 2 or greater from your soul and add it to your hand. So he's really just there for utility purposes. I know some people play like Master the 5th Element here, and I haven't really tested out Master the 5th Element. In this instance, I was using him to go for more of a utility thing. Like, Master 5th Element, I know he needs about 15 cards in soul. My object with the deck is not to stack the soul to get to 15, 20, whatever it is. It's to get enough to where I don't need to now power through my deck. I can go ahead, play normal game, sustain pressure, and go for the win. But he just adds a lot of utility to the deck. Then we're gonna get out. Let's see. I'm gonna introduce the king first.
No Life King. No Life King is still a great card. He's probably the best Dark Irregular card that they've really ever made. I can't see him not going in any Dark Irregular deck ever again. He is a staple at 4 of. Being able to, his restand play is fantastic. You can even ride up to grade 2. Like I said, if I had the promo Rhodia, you can ride into the grade 2. And if you have like 20 cards in your soul, she's sitting there as a 25k body, defensively. That can happen. But he's essentially your kill turn. You don't want to ride him first. He's never been a first turn. You can get him off first turn if you get enough soul charging cards and things like that. Like you kind of high roll your soul charging, but essentially he's not your ideal first ride. You want to really ride him into late game. But if you do, then you're just going to have to, you're starting off a little slower, but you're just going to have to play around it. But he's a fantastic finisher. Again, him and Hard Leg, that's 4 attacks that your opponent's going to have to guard from hand. They need a minimum of 12 cards in order to block every attack if they have to guard from hand on 5. They need a minimum of 12 cards, and then you can choose. And the cool thing is you can play mind games with your opponent. You can choose whether to rewrite another copy of him and then swing for a huge number, like 40 plus, or you can ride into Brufas and then go back to doing more things as far as control goes, and set up and extra crits and whatnot. And then last but not least is Brufas. What's his name? Demonic Deep Phantasm Emperor Brufas. This guy is what makes new Dark Irregular so fun to play. He is such a fantastic card in the deck. So what he does is that he has an act ability where you counterblast 1. You look at any you choose up to three of the same type of card of any card in your deck. So you look through your deck literally for any 3 cards. If you do have a copy of one of the cards you search out from your deck in your soul, you get to add 1 to your hand, and then the rest you soul charge. Now, here's the thing about him: is not that you get if there is not a card in your soul. Like let's say you search out Hard Leg, and there's no other Hard Legs in your soul. That card does not go into your hand. That card has to go back into the deck. So all you did was counterblast to reveal and send back. Because in order for him to go to his second part of his ability, the card must be in your soul first before you're so you can add 1 to hand and stuff. Now, it does say that you can search up to 3 cards. So if you search up to 1 card, the first part of the ability goes off where you have to add it to hand. So if you end up searching out a card that you only have a 1 of in your deck, then that card is going to be going into your hand as long as you have another copy of it in your soul. So you can definitely play around with his ability, either whether it's for setup or for anything else. You can definitely play around with his ability to get you what you want. So he's a fantastic utility card. His other ability is that when he attacks, if you have 2 or more grade 3 cards in your soul, you get to destroy a card on the board. So you can either destroy one of your units or your opponent's units, and Brufas gains the power and critical of that unit during that attack. Now, here's the cool thing about him. If you destroy a card on Protect 2, because Protect 2 is active during both players' turn, you're going to get whatever current power they're at, and whatever critical they have. If they're on a Force 2 marker, since Force 2 is active during both players' turn, you're going to gain that card's power and their critical. Now, if the opponent has like a Ganslot or something, or Alfred, and the Blaster Blade is sitting at 20k, you're going to end up gaining that 20k power and an extra crit. And if they happen to be on Force 2, that's 2 crits. Ooh, that's disgusting. So he's a very good card, very good control. If you're able to set him up for his ability by first ride, and in this deck is very easy to do. You ride Brufas. You can ride Brufas, drop the Emblem Master, copy Brufas, put up 3 copies of him into the soul, and you set him up that way. Now Brufas is online to start pressuring your opponent with extra power and extra crit.
this card is just a fantastic card. He's your other condition that you want to set up. If hard leg setup is more or less setting up for late games, or you're trying to kill your opponent, kind of like a mid-game push, so to speak. What you really want to focus on is being able to set him up so that his full skills on. Now, and this, remember, and that skill doesn't cost a counterblast at all. This is just an auto on attack skill. So having Brufas online early really hurts your opponent, especially early game, just being able to put pressure on them. Now, some people get into the discussion of like against Pale Moons, things like that. So yes, against Pale Moons, he doesn't seem like he's the greatest unit. However, again, you can still pop your own cards. Swing with a weak column here, test your opponent's guard, then pop that card, and then gain the power and the critical of that card. So there will be some sacrifices you would have to make in that matchup, but overall, he is a fantastic card. Again, this deck works really well with Protect 2. Brufas is able to set up multiple rides. If you end up soul charging like an NLK, you can use Brufas' ability to search out the NLK, to stack your soul to set up for variance, add an NLK to your hand. Now you got 3 NLKs in your soul. Variance is 1/3 of the variance. Hard leg is 1/3 of the way there, ready to pop off. Overall, just a fantastic card. This deck is very smooth. I definitely recommend anyone playing. Now, it's not, again, like I said, it's not an easy deck. The infamous Black Steve on here. He is the one who is, he's the DI master. I consider him the best DI player in our area. He knows this deck inside out. He's taught me a lot of things about the deck. Really got my interest in it. Helped provide me with a lot of the cards to play it. And I'm just sharing my knowledge with you from what we've been what we go over and what we do. Still working on a lot of different situational matchups. But I'm really happy that I picked up this deck. This deck can definitely have a very high win percentage. But you're just going to take, you got to take time with the deck. You got to think with the deck, and the deck can be very fast. Some people say that the setup is slow. The setup is not exactly slow. The setup can be very quick, and you can definitely have a hard leg online by turn 4, maybe turn 5. So, yeah. So that's all I got for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely like, comment, subscribe. I know this is a long-winded one, but you know how my deck profiles are. I like to explain everything, get everything out there so that we could, learn together. Definitely hit me up in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. What are you guys running in your DI deck? If you are, if you're not, I say pick it up. Definitely try this build out. I think it's fantastic. It's very smooth. Again, I do want to test out Master of the Fifth Element, but I really like that. I really like the utility that drag form brings so far. So this has been the Cardfight King, Aqua Life, baby. You already know what it is. I'm going to do a talk about Ravon. I know we got the news with Aqua Force, so we're going to have a discussion about Ravon coming back. And, yeah, it is what it is. Aqua Life, baby. Let's go.